So I am Wes Royer, and I am currently a vice president of product management at Clarivate. Um, we are, from a company perspective, it's a global corporation, enterprise software across several different segments. As far as my journey to getting to this role and being in product management, I actually started, over 25 years ago in marketing and communications. From there, I actually went to software engineering, and then for the past 15 to 20 years, I've been in and out of product management. Um, and I've done that over the course of several different industries and companies. I've been in defense, government, what else? Biotech, healthcare, publishing, and all of that, the different roles and also the different companies and industries, I think has really helped me to step into new roles like this from a leadership perspective and have all those different types of experiences and perspectives from different industries and look at it and say, all these companies kind of have the same problems. They just look different on the surface. And so you have to attack them differently, right? But I think having that journey has allowed me to have that perspective of, all right, let's look at it individually, but also let's take the experience of all those other things and see if we can make improvements based on what I learned there. So that's been kind of my journey there. It's, I think going into product, I was thrown into it, especially in the 2000s. There really wasn't any place to get degrees or certifications for product. So I was just part of that generation or group that kind of had to learn how to do software product management. But I've had community online and even locally meetups and networking groups and things like that that you can learn a lot from. And then obviously there's tons of videos and books in the past 10 years that you can read up to get other perspectives on how to do this. But that's been my journey to getting to this place. Healthcare, you have lots of privacy rules and laws, HIPAA in the United States that you have to deal with. Obviously, defense and government has all of its security and privacy issues that you have to work around. But I think every industry has that, right? I mean, even consumer or B2C type software has to deal with data privacy, has to deal with all the laws in the different countries, European Union and all that on what to do for that. So I think the first thing that I really learned is you have to look at that almost as an opportunity and not a hurdle that you have to overcome. I think a lot of people, when they get into these roles or a team is assigned with something, sometimes they get bogged down with kind of the negative thoughts of, well, we can't do that because there's this regulation, there's this rule, we don't know how to get around that. And I think that's really, especially in a software and an agile mindset, that's just a puzzle, something that we have to solve. It's an opportunity. And I think the teams and the companies that are able to solve for those issues, those hurdles, they're the ones that are going to survive and be successful. So I think it's really just embracing the opportunity of it. On the other hand, the other piece of it is, it's great when the product team and even the developers really understand exactly what those rules, those laws, those guidelines are. But I think it's really important, especially for someone who's new to a team or new to a product or a company or industry. It's really important for that person to try not to act like they have to know everything up front themselves. It's great when they do learn it. But as far as knowing the ins and outs of any regulations and data privacy rules, usually, especially at a corporation, there are people you can lean on. There's obviously the legal team. Sometimes there's a separate InfoSec team. Lean on those people. And that's a really core part of product management, or even working in software in general, is don't feel like you have to go into it yourself. Create a network around you of subject matter experts that can help you navigate those laws and those guidelines. it's amazing when you do get them involved, they actually get excited because then they do want to think about not just how to keep the company and the customer safe, but also they do start to think about, well, we could do this. Like they start to get creative in a way that sometimes you don't think that someone who's in your legal or InfoSec group is creative, but they can get very creative about what we can do to work within that environment. So I think those are the big things is, again, look at opportunities, not necessarily roadblocks to what you're trying to do. And then also really take advantage, especially in a larger company, of all of the network that you can create of people within the company that can help answer small pieces or be creative in how you come up with solutions on things. I think we're all seeing it in the news, right? And I think even before Chat GDP, right, with machine learning, or even before that, data lakes, it's all different. It's a series of technical breakthroughs and trends that happen, right? And so I think we've seen previously over the past 10 years where there are more and more tools for being able to bring they take large data sets and make them manageable in one place. That was kind of the data lake piece. And then machine learning started to come up with ways where we could create models to train off of. And then with Chat GDP, where we're going with agentic and all that, now we kind of have an interface that the layman user, so it doesn't have to be a developer, can actually now interface with AI to sort through that data, research through that data, find themes in large amounts of a data, so that we don't have to go through it individually and figure it out. So I think in any industry, this is obviously taking foot, and people are reacting to it, trying to be the first or ahead in what they're doing. But the primary pieces are, I think, in two ways that it's really impactful. Obviously, from the product that we have for our users or customers, it's giving them tools that have AI working with it or behind it that allow them to quickly find data they're looking for, or even automate or optimize how quickly they can work through a workflow with that data. And that could be through drafting things. It could be for organizing data. It could be actually for doing quality checks on the data as well. But I think that's what we talk a lot about, or you see a lot on LinkedIn, is how do I put AI in my product? But the other piece that's just as important is behind the scenes within the company, is with that much data, organizing it, making the data relational, not in the traditional sense, right? Like if you think of a relational database, that's where you have to manually create those relationships across fields and tables and things like that. With AI, we can use this technology to help us make it relational, but obviously there's still work to do that. So with AI, we can take all of this, take even more data than we ever thought we could work with, find the relationships in front of it, and then we can turn that into either reports or insights that can be exposed to our users and customers, or we can make it structured in a way that, like I'd mentioned, in the product, the user can now use AI to theme, organize, search, optimize workflows, do things like that. So for me, in my space, which is mostly enterprise software, that's where I see it being most important. I think just the change over the next, it's already happening, and we already do it in our company because we've been doing data science and for the past 10 years or more, but it's really makes it so much quicker to organize and structure the data in a way that we can actually use it and find the insights with less manpower to do that. But then also being able to expose it in new ways, especially with ChatGPT and agentic coming up, we can now expose it in ways to our customers that they never even knew was possible, especially when you think of traditional search versus using a chat to do a search for something. that's kind of the big differences that we have right now. I think all of them are going to see major disruption. I think it's just that they're going to see it in different ways and maybe slightly different timelines. So let me give an example. So for healthcare, one of the things that I think I'm most excited about for healthcare is there is so much data that just when you stay in the hospital, there's so much data that comes from the machines. So you may have an EKG that's attached to you, or just to your heart rate and things like that. You could have you have machines that are putting IV liquids and fluids and drugs into you. You also have staff that are coming in, like nurses and doctors, who are taking notes on iPads about how you're progressing that day, what's your pain level, how are you feeling, all the way down to also even have you eaten your meals, those types of things. So it's a lot of information. So in the past, that information was put into an enterprise medical system, but you'd really have to like read through and sort all of that, as opposed to, I think the future is really that AI will be able to look at that and give kind of almost like a dashboard, if you will, and say, based on all the information that has been put in by the machines and the nursing staff, this is how we think the patient is progressing. Take that even further into kind of the lab setting of healthcare, in the sense of your blood tests and scans, for like image scans, like not an echocardiogram. Well, I guess an echocardiogram would count, but any type of imaging scan you have, where that data can now be put through a system and give you quicker results, or give the doctor quicker results on how biologically you're doing, as far as the blood tests and image scans go. We've even seen stories where imaging for certain types of cancers, it's able to detect cancer where maybe a human missed it looking at the pictures. So I think healthcare will be disrupted by how much quicker and more accurate we'll be able to make diagnoses and decisions on healthcare for people in hospitals, but also ones that just visit a regular doctor's office. So I think that'll happen quickly, because I think it's already happening. The trick will just be, can the doctors and hospitals and the software they're using use that data and have that exposed as quickly as possible so that we can benefit from it. I think defense is disrupted in a different way. Obviously, defense has a lot of research behind it around materials and weapons and processes and things like that. So I think AI is already making a difference there on crunching numbers of test results and things from when you do tests on different materials, structurally, chemically, and then also weapons, what's their destruction rate, what's their accuracy, things like that. Being able to crunch that data faster, I think, is already happening thanks to AI. I think the hurdle they have is what we talked about a little bit earlier, which is there is an extreme amount of laws, regulation, and secrecy that has to be in place to even work in that space. So learning how to use AI with such confidential data and information is the trick. Now, you can certainly have private data models and things like that, but even then, it's just making sure that it stays secure and that you're not risking that research getting out into the public in a way that you don't want it to. So I think they're all being disrupted. I think they're going to have different hurdles at different times they have to get through. But I definitely think in 5 years, the disruption is going to be pretty quick. I don't think it's disruption and people lose their jobs. I think it's just that in the way they work and how quickly they are able to do things. I'm hoping that it's actually that just innovation happens faster, that execution on delivering things to market happens faster. And so you wouldn't need less people to do that. You would actually be happy then to have the same amount of people being able to contribute more with the help of machines, and then get those things into the public or a consumer's hands quicker. – I see agility and adaptability. Now, I think everyone's like, they think agile, they think transformation in the company. And that's been kind of the buzz, right, for the past 5 or 10 years. And I think we are starting to see the maturity curve on those types of frameworks at this point as well. So I think for me, agility and adaptability can be as simple as you come into a large organization and let's say you have 10 different product development teams. And maybe some of those people have been working on the same thing for a very long time. Again, like I mentioned earlier, I feel like I benefited, at least my personality, from jumping from industry and company to learn what I could from each of them and then kind of accumulate that experience into the next role. You could do the same thing with teams, is go and look and talk and offer basically to the developers, to the product team, and say, hey, you've been working on this product for 2 to 5 years. How about you go learn and work on another product? Yes, there's a little bit of slowdown that happens to ramp up on those things, but take all the experience that you had on this current product and apply it to another one. Lessons learned, what works, what doesn't work, how the team functions, that type of thing. I think when you start applying some agility and adaptability around moving people around to different products and teams, there's a big benefit you'll get long-term from that. Again, you will have a little disruption when you do the change initially. All org changes or even one person switching teams creates disruption, but that's normal. But I think having the mindset of being willing to get that offer and say, yeah, I'll go work on a new product. I've never worked on that one before. Maybe I've heard about it only. I think that just creates a learning mindset for that person, but also for the team overall. And if you have just a couple people willing to do that, then over time, as the overall team see the success of doing that, the benefits of doing that, then other people will be interested in doing the same thing. And they'll, instead of thinking just about moving up in the career ladder, they'll then start thinking about moving kind of laterally to learn other things. Because I think that's really an important step to moving up in your career, is having more broader experience and skills allows you to take that more leadership role and manage people. So that's when I think of agility and adaptability, that's the first thing around staff and what you work on that's important. The other is being able to switch priorities. Now pull back the AI piece, take new technology and the new hurdles that come with that, the new risks that come with that, and be willing to stop working maybe in the status quo that you have been in for the past year or whatever it is, and say, hey, how can we use this new technology? Let's get excited about it. Let's again have a learning mindset to learn more about it. Do it as a team, not just have one person on the team, like a product person or just a tech lead or just that one developer who's always more experimental than the others. Get the team to start learning it together and figuring out how they can incorporate that into either their processes or actually into the product itself. So I think both of those examples, the staff and then also new technologies and how you're going to use them, yes, it's agility and adaptability, but it's actually at its core, it's a learning mindset. And I think that's really where adaptability and agility come from. Once you have that at the team level, it'll bubble up into leadership. There'll be ideas that'll be pushed up to leadership, because leadership a lot of times is going to have ideas, but they're not necessarily going to know how to execute them. And they really need the teams to think about that. So if we can come in the middle with leadership says, let's use AI and let's get it into everything, but then have the teams kind of bubble up, well, yeah, we've already thought about how we can do that. I think that's where you start to have that agility of incorporating new technologies and not falling behind next to competitors on being able to use those to provide the value you need to your customers and to your company. So I thought about this one. I was like, communication, but I won't give you that. Communication is one of them. I would say networking is the second. And then I would say the third is the learning mindset. So from communication, what I mean by that is if you think about a product role, you are effectively the lead, sometimes the owner of the team, but you're not the manager of the team, right? Usually the devs are the software engineers and the QA, the scrum master, they're typically reporting into other people. And then sometimes even the product managers or BAs or product owners on your team may be reporting to you, or they may be reporting to the manager above you. But the product person is in the center of it all. And they have other stakeholders that we work with as well throughout the business: finance, customer service, sales, marketing, data science team, all of it. So communication is really the biggest piece. You have to be able, both in email and on Teams or Slack, but also face-to-face in meetings or in the office, you have to be able and willing to communicate with your stakeholders and your team constantly and consistently. In a remote working environment, it could be easy for people to kind of disappear for most of the day and just only be in the stand-up. But I think a good product person you're going to hear from throughout the day. Obviously, they'll have time, like work time, maybe in the afternoon, where they're trying to really concentrate and focus on things, and that's normal. But I mean, like, they really need to be communicating with people on a regular basis. And that could be communicating statuses to stakeholders, that could be getting information from stakeholders to improve the product. Obviously, also communication to customers and with customers. But being able and willing to do that is just vital to the role. If you have someone in a product management role who is not communicative, I don't want to say social is the right word, but I think it does apply a little bit. But if they're not communicative, and not able and willing to communicate on a regular basis and consistently, you're going to run into roadblocks in the role. The other one is the networking, kind of part of communication, right? You have to be willing to talk to people and be social to create a network. But what I mean by this is, again, a lot of people go into product management and think that they have to know everything themselves. They have to learn it themselves. I actually am I prescribe more to create a network of subject matter experts around you, ones who are experts in the industry or in the particular customers you have. If you have the luxury of having a UX team, that really knows how to do discovery, the sales team and how they interact with the customers and make sales happen. Like, create that network, trusted network around you, where they trust you, you trust them, you communicate often with them, you have regular conversations with them. It doesn't need to be just a status update. But you create that network that you work within, and it will make your job easier, because when someone has a question on the team, you can say, hey, I don't know that right now, but I can get the answer for you today, because you already have that network in place and you know who to go to. In a large corporation, this is even more important, because it helps break down silos that happen either in a particular product or a business unit. If you can expand your network outside of your product area, your business area, maybe even into other business units, you'll be able to leverage the experience and expertise of those other stakeholders. You might even find a mentor in one of those areas as well that can really help you, even though they don't work in your particular product space. So that networking piece is really important. It's also really important for finding other jobs. I mean, get out there and do local meetup groups, go to conferences if you can. I know they can be expensive, but if you can get to 1 or 2 day conferences, especially local ones, do it. Network, meet people. It's going to broaden your horizons, and it's going to actually create that network that might lead to another job for you in the future. And then the third one is that learning mindset piece. I like to think of it, especially when you're just starting in product management, or really any career, honestly. The first 5 to 10 years you're in that career, you should really be treating yourself like a college student the entire time. You get to do the job, treat yourself almost like an intern. You're learning from the job, but also go look at other sources of information to learn from. Do audiobooks, watch some videos, attend some conferences, either virtually or physically. Talk to people. Keep learning, because if you don't, you're going to fall behind. I mean, think about the AI piece. If you're not playing with the tools, even for personal things, if you're not playing with any of the chatbot tools that are out there, you're going to fall behind, because you're really not going to understand the pros and cons of using it, how quickly you can use them and get information, but also how sometimes so far the information could be bad information that you get. So you have to be willing to learn and set aside some time every workday to do that learning. And that's fine. For my staff, I actually prefer they do set some time in their workday to actually do that learning. It doesn't mean they have to do it on the weekends. So those would be the three things: the communication, the learning mindset, and the networking piece would be what I'd recommend. Everything else you can learn on the job. You can learn the market industry on the job. You can learn product management best practices on the job with the team. The other three are soft skills that I think people can learn, but your native ability to have it up front, or your willingness to have it up front, is really what's going to help you excel. I think when you have an AI platform that I can go ask, like I would ask a person. I can go ask, hey, I want to learn more in this space. I don't want to do it through this medium or that format, or I want to, like, you can put parameters and just speak to it. I think it's a lot easier to do that, and you can get much faster organized results, I think, with kind of a chatbot system for that versus a traditional Google search in the past, where you'll get a search and maybe the first couple links are okay once you get past the sponsored links, and then after that you kind of just have very quick diminishing returns. So I think that's one way that it changes. I don't know if I'd say in this regard the AI is revolutionary. I think it's just the next step, right? Everything has gotten easier. Like if I go back to the 90s when I was in college and then started working, how would I get this type of training? Well, I'd have to go to a bookstore, see if I can find books that are on the topics I want. I'd have to flip through the books to understand if the book actually covers the topics I'm looking for. It was a lot of like manual trying to find resources for things, or possibly having to pay and travel to some type of certification course or class or something like that. Then we had everything online, and then we had YouTube. So again, it's like step by step. We've had technologies that have just made it easier to find information, to share information, which is really important. And then Google tried to organize it all so that you could find it. And now with these chat services and technologies, now we can put it all in one place, or be able to find it much more readily, and find it in the formats and the styles that we think is beneficial to us. So as simplistic as, I'm an audiobook person, I am not a physical read a book person. I just don't have the time for that. But give me an audiobook that I can put on, 125% speed or 150% speed, I can get through quite a few books in a year, both for fun and for professional. Videos are great too, especially the ones where you can speed them up a little bit now as well. It just really makes it easier to consume information, but also know before you start consuming it that it's actually something that you want. In the past, how many times have you read a book and got kind of maybe halfway into it, and you hit that point where it's like, I don't know if I really like this. I've already invested a lot of time, so should I just finish it? Same with a video. If you watch an hour-long video or went to a presentation, you get there and you're like, I don't know if this was really providing the value I want. I wish I could move on to something else. I think those are all luxuries that we have today, and it's just going to get easier to find exactly the things you want to learn from, or to fill those kind of skill gaps that you think you have, or even ask what skill gaps you might have. It's just going to get easier to do that.